Hello, I'm here today with my August wrap-up. Last time I filmed a video the quality wasn't great and I don't really know why, so hopefully this time it's not too bad, but we'll find out. So, like I said, I'm hoping to stay on BookTube now, so I'm filming another video, woohoo! I haven't done a video talking about books I've read for a very long time, which feels like, so apologies if I not quite up to date with anything, so hopefully it's okay. But in the month of August I managed to read 8 books, which I was really proud of myself, and DNF 2 of them. So let's go through them in the order that I read them in. The first book that I read was Always North by Vicky Jarrett, and it is a sci-fi book. I think I got it, no, I just got it from a normal Books of Stories box that it used to be subscribed to, fantasy and sci-fi. I have now switched genres, by the way, so I've switched to mystery genre. I haven't read anything from there yet because I only recently got it for the first time in August. But yeah, so this one I did give 4 stars to. It's not, I didn't love it, don't get me wrong. It was somewhere between 3 and 4 stars. But I need to tell you the plot first. So this book is set in the future and it's mostly set in like the Arctic, as you can probably see from the cover. And we've got this company, I don't remember exactly what they do, but something to do with like eco stuff related things. So it's really focused on that as well, but it doesn't go into too much detail what exactly their expedition is supposed to be doing there. So they go, this company goes on like a sort of ship to go to the Arctic to do something. I don't think that's even described in the book, to be honest with you. And on the way there happen to be some things happening. I think the main focus of the story is on this isolated sort of ship. They're like stranded far away from everything and there's nothing there around them for a while. They're just there with themselves on the ship, and there's a massive polar bear as well that seems to be almost like targeting them. So it was a bizarre book, to be honest with you. I don't think it was like a coherent plot even, because it jumped between 2 different timelines as well. And I'm already forgetting the details, unfortunately. But it was bizarre. I did really like the isolated atmosphere of this ship. I don't know what it's called actually, boat, ship. I'm gonna call it a ship because I don't really know. And I did like the little sort of even creepy bits about it with the polar bear, and there were some other sort of unknown things that we still don't really get the answers to. But because it's a sci-fi book, I don't want to obviously give too much away. There wasn't too much sci-fi in it. I feel like it was mostly slightly creepy, isolated, light sort of sci-fi book. But for some reason, I keep still thinking about it every now and then because it just felt so odd. But you know, some books just sit in your brain for a while after you've read them. Even if you didn't love them, they sort of stick with you for a while. So this is one of them for me. Like, I know I haven't given it much of a great explanation, I think, great description of the book, but that's the best I can do for this one. It was bizarre. I don't think I loved the main character either. She seemed, I don't know, I kind of liked her, kind of didn't like her, but yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't the best. But I did enjoy it quite a lot, so there we go. My next book I got in a mystery sort of book. I think I picked it up from a second-hand bookshop somewhere online. I can't remember the name of the bookshop now. But anyway, so that was this book, which is The Abortionist's Daughter by Elizabeth Hyde. This is a crime fiction book. I wouldn't call it a thriller necessarily. I gave this one 3 stars. It wasn't amazing. Thriller, crime, mystery genre in general is my favourite genre now. So I think I'm always going to be biased and enjoy them quite a bit, but this one wasn't that great. The main character is a teenager who's really popular. She's away studying in college, and one day she hears that her mum is dead in the pool. But then quickly they find out that it was a murder. She was murdered. So we've got another perspective in this book, which is a detective who is trying to figure out what's happened to her, because she apparently have annoyed quite a few people on that day, because she is the abortionist. She's got a clinic that does deal with that. So obviously it's kind of controversial, and she could have a lot of enemies. I enjoyed parts of this book, but other parts I didn't, so that's why I've given it 3 stars. Again, I'm starting to forget all the details, so I'm just going to give you a vague sort of feeling about it. I did enjoy how we would get into different characters' sort of backstories a little bit. Usually I mind it quite a lot in books, but for some reason this one it worked, because I think the things it talked about is more like, not necessarily dramatic, but like with a teenage girl, it talked about her past and like her sort of troubled love life, which normally I don't like reading about in books, but this one for some reason just worked for me. I enjoyed it. I gobbled it up. And even the mum, we went back to the past on her day, on her last day basically, and went through all of that. That was also really quite interesting to see all the different dynamics between different characters. So we thought, who would have killed her and why? So that was interesting. And we also had the third perspective of the detective, who was... I wasn't a fan of him, and there is a bit in the book that annoyed me, because there's no way a police officer would actually do what this one did. Well, not a good police officer anyway. But yes, it was entertaining. I did enjoy it, but it was only a 3-star book, and this one will actually be going. So I've started this thing that if I don't enjoy the books enough, I get rid of them, and the other ones I'm keeping. So I have decided that I'm actually keeping Always North. I might get rid of it at some point, but this one is going to the unhaul pile, which I have got a massive one, by the way. I don't know if I will be showing you that or not. We'll see. My next read was actually, unfortunately, another 3-star, but that is Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. I've been intrigued by this book for a while, and as you can see, it's sort of set in like a format of like sort of IKEA catalogue, and obviously the chapters are starting with piece of furniture and its description. So I did find the format quite intriguing, and it's supposed to be a horror book, so obviously we've got this supposedly haunted place, and we've got a group of people that are staying here overnight to like prove what's happening with it, to see what's happening with it, because every time they go in there and there seems to be something strange has happened, so they're staying one night to see what is going on. I think this was bizarre, to be honest. That's why I've given it 3 stars. It wasn't even, well, it was creepy, but it wasn't scary. It felt like it was trying to be weird and creepy for the sake of it. Like, to me, it didn't make sense how it was done. So it wasn't creepy at all. It was just weird. I found it really weird and not creepy, like I said. So it was alright. I gave it 3 stars. I liked it enough, but it's not quite what I wanted it to be. I don't really have many thoughts on it at all. It was just okay. Not scary enough. Easy to read, I suppose. And the format was definitely different and interesting. And it was creepy in places. A bit different, I would say, as well. But then I don't really read a lot of horror, unfortunately. I do want to. But yeah, this one was unfortunately a 3-star for me. It just didn't hit me. I do have another book by this author on my TBR, the Guide How to Slay Vampires or something like that, so I'm excited to read that one. Hopefully that one I'll enjoy a little bit more, but this just didn't do it for me. Although I am keeping this one, by the way. I just realised I actually read 9 books in the month of August, so that's even better than I thought. So my next one was a 4-star read, by the way, and that is The Outcast Dead by Ellie Griffith, which is the 6th book in a series. Yeah, 6th book in a series. I started the series probably in 2020 or maybe 2021, so I've been reading them very slowly. But this one is, obviously I can't talk too much about the plot of this book because it's the 6th book in a series, but they sort of follow separate events anyway, but it's just I wouldn't be talking about personal stuff in the characters' lives because it's the 6th book in a series. But we follow two main characters. One is Ruth Galloway, who is a forensic archaeologist at a university, and we also follow a DI, Nelson, who is, well, a DI, and quite often their paths seem to cross because the crimes that they're investigating here are related somehow one way or another with the past. Like they would either discover a skeleton and then some crime would be related to that in some way or other. Sorry, he's DCI Nelson, by the way, not a DI. In this one, actually, I can tell you that there is this woman whose children just seem to be found dead like one after the other, so when they are infants or children. So obviously DCI Nelson suspects it's the mother, but there's also a storyline. They found this Mother Hug, who is back in Victorian days was like a nanny whose children also died quite a lot. So are these things connected? Are they not connected? I enjoyed this book a lot more than I enjoyed the first 5, and I don't know if it's because I've gotten so much more into mystery, crime, thriller stuff this year and the past year that I actually haven't touched this series for a while, and maybe I forgot how good they are, or I'm just enjoying it a little bit more. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I definitely will not be having such a massive break in between now, because it's been quite a while since I read the 5th one in the series. I think 1 or 2 years I haven't touched them. But now I'm definitely going to continue and hopefully read another one before the end of the year. Hopefully. I do have a massive TBR, by the way. It's grown a lot for the past year. So, yeah. But this was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's quite easy to read as well, and they are really always fascinating to read. I used to have a problem with... I still don't love the main characters, by the way. I'm not a fan of Ruth, and I'm still not a fan of DCI Nelson and how they go about their lives. But the actual plot is interesting. The interactions are interesting. And the fact that it switches different perspectives as well is quite interesting. And obviously the archaeology bit, all of the bones that they find, all of that archaeology stuff is really fascinating to me. So I did really have a good time with it. But then I had a DNF. And that was a Skyfarer by Joseph Brassi. This was another box of stories, but this was a fantasy supposedly, although it was set in space. I tried to read it. I think I really didn't give it a lot, but I couldn't get into it. So firstly, fantasy is not my favourite genre anymore, and it's got to be specific fantasy that I'm in the mood for, that I enjoy. But this one, I've read reviews as well. It's mostly for people who are fans of Star Wars in space. Well, Star Wars is in space anyway. But anyway, and I'm not a fan of Star Wars anyway. There's basically this sort of gem, or what's it called? Like relic that everyone is after, and the main characters are also after it. But the main character is a sorcerer, so there's magic, there's space. I found it incredibly boring for the first... I can't remember how much I've given it. I don't think it was a lot at all. But I do have a thing. As soon as I start the book, I most of the time know if I'm going to enjoy it or not. So pretty early on. This one just wasn't it. So it is going in the unhaul pile. By the way, if you're hearing strange noises, my cat is washing himself next to me. So apologies for that. My next book was another 4-star, by the way. And that is No Secrets by David Jackson. So this one I actually got from, sorry for the reflection, from Tea Time Bookshop, I think it is. And they do different subscriptions. So my one that I've chosen is mystery, crime, thriller type thing. And I've chosen, by the way, secondhand, so used books. But look at the condition. They call it a used book. It's in a perfect condition. I love it. I will leave the link to the website down below, but I'm not sponsored or anything, obviously, but I'm just sharing this with you in case you were looking for different subscriptions. It's really quite small and it's quite cheap as well, I think, depending on what you're choosing. But I've chosen mystery crime thriller, like I said, and they give you like little pack of biscuits and a choice of either hot chocolate, coffee or tea, or you can do surprise me. They give you a bookmark and a little postcard. So this was the first one I ever got from there, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Our main character is an empath. She can tell when people are lying, and she can detect really little things in what they're saying, if it's true or not. She picks up on different emotions and feelings and whatnot. She's really good at it, basically, to the extreme level. And at one point there have been a few girls that have gone missing recently in her town, and she sees on the news the person who's being interviewed just as because he worked there in the school that the girls go missing in, and she knows from that it's him, but now she needs to prove it. But then there might be something happening with her. I really had a good time with it. I really sympathise with the main character. I am an empathic person as well, not to the level that she is though. And I really liked it. I love how she just went a little bit almost obsessed with it, to the point that she was risking a lot of like friendships and stuff as well. It was really good. I really had a good time with it. The plot was really great and interesting, and the twist that happened as well, I was not expecting that at all. I thought I knew, but no, that took me off guard. So I really enjoyed it, and this one I am definitely keeping. My next book is another book in a series, but this one I gave 3 stars to, unfortunately, and that is Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, which is a 3rd book in a series. I really loved the first book. I think I gave it 5 stars or 4 stars, I can't remember, but I really loved it. I think it was 5. Second one I gave 4 stars to. This one was a disappointment for me. It's very similar. Obviously they are basically based in a cafe where you can go back in time, and there are different rules. The rules though, they're mentioned so many times in every single book. It's annoying a little bit actually. But so yeah, you can go back in the past. You can't change the past. You can only be in that cafe. You can only meet the people who have been in the cafe. So, and stuff like that. So the first book was really quite emotional, and I cried a lot in that one. Second one I really did enjoy. This one just seems it's the same story again, but this time I didn't cry. I didn't feel connected to the characters at all. I'd say I didn't even enjoy it all that much. That's why I gave it 3 stars. I don't know why, it just didn't hit me, and loads of other people seem to think the same thing. Of like, I feel like it would have worked better as a standalone. It would have been amazing, but this was not great. I do still have the 4th book in the series, so I will be reading that at some point, but yeah, not great, but I'm keeping it. My next book was another success. It was a 4-star book, and that is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. At this point I would consider her as one of my favourite authors. I've read 2 books by her. One was The Ex, I gave it 5 stars, and then the other one was Do You Remember, which I gave 4 stars, and then I bought a bunch of her books in physical format, and this is one of the ones that I have read. I love her books. Again, it's like crime thriller books. So this one was really good. This one was set in a house where the main character and her partner go because they want to buy the house, but they just happen to be sort of stranded there because there's a snowstorm going, so they have to stay there for the night. But then the house used to belong to this therapist who disappeared 3 years ago, and this is her house. And so our main character actually comes across her tapes that she was recording with her patients, and the main character starts to see what potentially could have happened to her. It was really fascinating to read. A lot of it, well, not a lot of it, quite a lot of his transcripts from her sessions. It was really good. The book had 2 different perspectives. So the main character, her name is Trisha, and we got her perspective obviously, and we got the perspective of Dr. Hale, who is the therapist. So it was going backwards and forwards obviously from like the past before she disappeared. It was really fascinating. I've read it quite quickly. I at times just couldn't put it down. I also really loved the setting because sometimes it was a little bit creepy even. So I really did like it. I think this author is quite good at like throwing red herrings though, so you start to think that you know what you think you know, but then she throws something else at you and you know you were completely wrong. That slightly irritates me, but also it makes it a good thriller, because to me, if I'm surprised, if I'm interested, that's what's important to me in a thriller. I don't really care about like unreliable characters or loads of other things that people find annoying in thrillers. I actually enjoy it as long as I'm entertained and as long as I'm surprised, as long as it's thrilling. I don't care, I love it. So I gave it 4 stars and definitely will be continuing with her books. So good job, I've got quite a few on my TBR. Then I had another DNF, and that was another Box of Stories book, unfortunately, but that is The Hiding Place by Amanda Mason. This one actually came in a Halloween box from last year, and I got to it randomly this year. I went to about halfway through, and it is supposed to be a ghost story, right? We follow 2 characters in this book. We've got Nell and her husband and their daughter, well, stepdaughter for the main character Nell. So Maud, I think is how you'd pronounce her name, is 12 years old, and we get 2 perspectives, like I said. So Nell used to live in this small town. Now they're coming back because they want to, I think, buy this house, or they're staying there for a few weeks. No, they're staying there for a few weeks. And Maud, I think that's again how you say it, she starts to find different like random spots that weren't there before in the house, or like creepy noises. Then they find some hidden place and there's an unnerving object in there. I won't say what it is, but I didn't find it unnerving in the slightest. So I was enjoying this book at first. I wasn't loving it, but then halfway through I just thought, I'm not doing it. It felt like it would have been a 3-star book, and recently I just don't have the patience to finish the books that are 3 stars. If I'm not enjoying it enough and it's going to be a 3-star, I don't want to read it, basically. When I think I might get something out of it, then I will continue. But with this one, I just didn't like it. And then I read reviews about it as well, and loads of people say, obviously without spoilers, that there's not that much ghosty stuff in it. Like halfway through, it felt so still dragged out. Not much has happened. There was nothing ghosty, just little hints every now and then, but it wasn't enough to keep me interested. It definitely wasn't enough to feel creepy at all, I think. Maybe like a couple of times, but not to the extreme of being scared, which you would expect from like a Halloween box. So that was a bit disappointing. But yeah, for halfway through, it was not creepy at all. And the thing that annoyed me as well, so I think the author was trying to show really how unhinged almost their relationship in their family is, how they don't get on and stuff. But the fights that they had were so petty. It was ridiculous. They were there just for the sake of it, and I didn't think it was done really well. But yeah, so that was a disappointment. I DNF'd it halfway through, unfortunately. So I would not recommend this if you're looking for something creepy and ghosty, because there's not a lot of that at all in here. Next book I read was a massive hit. So it was The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. So I've got a little story with it. So now I've got 3, if not 4 different sort of TBR piles, maybe 5. I will probably film a video on that, specifically talking about it, but basically I've stolen the idea from Megan in the Books. I can't remember her channel name, but I will leave the link to her video down below, to her channel, because it's not my idea at all. So wrap up the books that have been on my TBR for a long time, and this was one of them. So I've unwrapped it and absolutely fell in love with it. It was great. I can't believe it's taken me so long to read it, but oh my god, I loved it. It is based on a true story, but obviously it's set in the period of World War II in Auschwitz. We've got the person who puts numbers on Jews and other people who go into this camp, and it's just his story. Oh my god, I loved the main character. I think it's bringing me tears just thinking about this book, to be honest. But I loved the main character. He is absolutely fantastic. Lael is his name. He's so kind, he thinks about other people, the things that he does for other people, and how he goes about it, how his personality, how he still has hope and tries to bring hope to everyone else around him. There's also a little love story in there as well, which I thought I wouldn't enjoy, but I really did. Honestly, I cried in this book as well. This was great. I haven't had many 5 stars this year, but this one's definitely one of them. I do always enjoy books set in the period of World War II, so I need to read more of them. But this was, I feel like, great. The thing I do want to say though as well, obviously all of the horrible bits were rather brushed off, which I think it was obviously done on purpose, because not everyone would really want to read the horrible detailed bits about things that happened in there. So that's sort of briefly mentioned as sort of light as possible, which is, if you're worried about stuff like this, then this isn't going into too much detail. It's just mentioned. Some of it implies that something might have happened, but yeah, it doesn't go into gruesome, gory, horrible, absolutely devastating details, but you get enough of an impression to know what's happening. I absolutely fell in love with it. The main character is amazing. The love story also was beautiful, and the fact that it's based on a real life story as well. There at the end there's some different bits about it, photos of the characters, the real people. It added so much more to it. I absolutely loved it. Would definitely recommend it. I saw on Goodreads that it has such high rating before I started it, but usually I'm in the minority. Usually I'm the one who doesn't like the book as much. If everyone else loves it, I'm now in the majority. I think it's something like over 50% of the people gave it 5 stars. I can see why. And now I've got the sequel to it, by the way, so I'm looking forward to reading that at some point. Well, it's not the sequel, it's I'll show you. I think it's Silka's Journey, which is a character that was mentioned in this book. So I think it's again based on a true story. Yes. So I'm looking forward to this one too. And the last book that I read, I gave 3.5 stars to. That is Dead Good Detectives by Jenny McLaughlin. I like the cover and the back, and it does have loads of different illustrations as well, which is part of the reason why I bought it. I sort of have gone off a little bit of middle grade, which is understandable because I'm not the target audience, but I do still enjoy like creepy middle grades. This I thought would be a little bit creepy, but it really wasn't. So that was a little bit deceptive, but the illustrations are quite cool, so I'll show you a couple. So in this book we follow our main character, whose name is Sid. She's 12 years old and she likes hanging out with her best friends. Then they mostly hang out in the cemetery, and one time she somehow manages to free this pirate spirit who now has unfinished business. There are loads of other ghosts in the house as well who ask her for help to release them as well and help them with their business. So this was, I feel like it was a little bit too long. If it was a little bit shorter, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. I love the atmosphere. I like the main character quite a bit. She's quite nice. She's got she's different from all the other kids as well, which I do enjoy. So she prefers to like be alone and hang out in the cemetery and with her best friend, who's also really awesome. He was really quite cute. He's the opposite of her. He's really confident, he's really friendly, doesn't care what people think of him, while she's quite an anxious child. She cares what people think and she prefers to just avoid everybody. So she's kind of built this friendship with this pirate, and she's trying to now help him get what his unfinished business was. So he's released from this horrible person who's like in charge of this house. I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I probably would have given it 4 stars if it was a little bit shorter and if a little bit more happened, because I feel like it wasn't enough of the plot to get me interested. At least I know I'm not the target audience, like I said, but I feel like even still with middle grade books there are some that are just filled with different things, different like atmosphere and magic and whatnot, so that would sort of make up for the lack of plot. I wouldn't say it's a lack of plot, I would just say there's not enough things happening within the plot, so I would have preferred that to happen a little bit more. But it was really wholesome and cute and atmospheric, I would say. I love the books that sort of take you out of the main sort of, I don't know, town and the little group of children. In this case it's just the two kids and the pirate, and his parrot, by the way. I like when it's like isolating that from everybody else and focuses on that, especially like in the cemetery, especially considering nobody else can see him and stuff like that. I did like that, so I am keeping it, by the way. I don't think I want to read a sequel. I'm still considering it, so my decision will be based, if I still think about this book, then I will get the sequel. If I sort of forget about it in a little while, then I won't get a sequel, because I think it'll be another 3.5 star, and I feel like I've got too many books on my TBR to be, in the nicest way, wasting my time reading 3-star books when there are potential 5 stars on there. So yeah, these are all of the books that I read in the month of August. Let me know if you've read any of these, and also please let me know what was your favourite book of the month of August. For me that was definitely the Tattoos of Auschwitz. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!